wasn't even in the city when it was all. Hi, my name is Dave Cooper. It's August 7th, 2002, and I'm here to tell my story about what happened on September 11th of last year. Really, I guess my story is a little different than a lot of other people's stories, as I wasn't even in the city when it was all taking place. I was in my car heading to work in Hoboken, New Jersey, when I kind of looked out the window and I saw the smoke coming out of the Trade Center. It was kind of funny. I called my grandmother to tell her to turn on the news, and she told me that a plane actually has hit the building, at which point I kind of stopped my car, and I was looking across the river, probably like everybody else, wondering what was going on and what was happening, and that's when another plane, the second plane, came and hit the other tower. I was in the service. I was a combat trauma medic, 369th Armored Battalion out of Fort Stewart, Georgia, and I spent a lot of time in Southeast, Southwest Asia. I did a lot of, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen a lot of trauma, which kind of compelled me. I went down to the river's edge because I knew they'd be evacuating people on boats and what have you from the city, and I went down to help out as many people as I possibly could. When I got down to the river, the first few boats came along, and I explained my background, and they were more than willing to let me stay down there and help out. And that's when I started to help people off the boats. In particular, one guy that I helped off had a lot of guys, women and children were pretty cut up and beat up coming off the boats. But I remember specifically one guy had a compound fracture in his ankle, and I just remember arguing with this lady about her leashes. I didn't have any medical supplies, obviously. And I needed to tie his leg together to kind of support him while we carried him off this fireboat. And eventually we did get him off with a lot of screaming and hollering. And that's when I kind of when I got off the boat. Then a police boat came in, and I helped some folks off there. At which point I was asked to. The first tower came down. And then I was asked to if I'd ride over with them because one of the I guess paramedics or what have you on the police boat was injured, and they needed all the help they can get. So here I was getting on a police boat heading towards Manhattan from New Jersey, where it was pretty safe at the moment, and just thinking to myself as I passed all the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people and boats coming across the river trying to get out of the city, and here I'm on a police fireboat with probably about 7 or 8 guys heading right into the middle of it. Got off the boat and immediately had a hard time seeing the debris, the smoke. It was just burns your eyes, and I remember I had a pair of shorts on, and I'm in the consulting world, so I could kind of get away with that at work. But people were kind of running around fanatically, and I was trying to find my way without being able to see. In the trade centers, it was kind of difficult, and I was working with the police and fire guys, helping people, washing their eyes out at first, and trying to get people coordinated to get on a Battery Park and what for evacuation purposes. At that point, I kind of ran up, and I was going up towards the trade center. The first tower was already down, and a police officer asked me to go with him, and I ran up, and I can't remember the name of the street for the life of me at the time, but had a guy that had another broken leg, and probably about a block and a half from the towers, and that's when I grabbed him. The second tower started coming down, and this guy and I grabbed him, and we just started running. You remember the guy, the screams are pretty good when you're dragging somebody by their shoulders and they have a broken leg. But needless to say, we got out of there, and after that I went back to that area which was covered probably in about 10 feet of steel and metal after we got out of there. And then I ended up going I met another individual. The whole day's kind of blurry. I met a guy from Staten Island ambulatory unit, and his truck was there, and his partner got hurt, and I actually have her helmet or aid bag, which he gave me. He needed a hand. There was a guy in the ambulance, had a compound fracture. I've been out of trauma and medical unit for quite a few years, but it came back to me fairly well. And I just remember this guy who just wouldn't, like the Asian guy, I don't know, Philippine or something like that, and he just wouldn't let go of his briefcase. And all I remember is yelling at him, had to get rid of his briefcase so we could take his pulse and get IVs and everything else going. And that's kind of how it happened. I went Staten Island, or not Staten Island, but the ferry station down by Battery Park. Also was a setup for trauma, and that's where the ambulance took me to. And we went down to drop this guy off, and we got out of the bus, the ambulance, and it was just full of debris. They wouldn't let us go back out to get any more casualties because they had some other ambulances that were, better equipped and hygienic and weren't so dirty. We just had probably 2-3 inches of ash all through the inside of it, so it was pretty rough. It definitely looked like a war zone. At which point I went up and I registered my name as a volunteer medical assistant, and ended up going back up to the World Trade Center to One Liberty Plaza. This is probably a few hours after the towers came down, and uh, where I was at the moment wasn't too bad, but when we got in there, it was kind of chaotic. They had the One Liberty Plaza in the basement was set up as an aid station. And in the aid station, I went in and I spent quite a few days working out of that aid station, because they had the aid station and then they had the morgue, which was in Brooks Brothers, right next door to it. And first I started helping out as an orderly when I got there, helping clean some of the firemen's eyes out and give them oxygen, basically just first aid to whatever I could do to help out. Once I started letting people do the search and rescue, that's when I started going up on the hill, digging, and bagging quite a few body parts, which had its moments. I spent most of my time working the morgue. Uh, I personally, myself, and another guy named Sergeant Perez, he was a Marine Corps guy. Him and I carried the litter, which is like the stretcher. It's how we got the bodies out of the debris, and we tried to keep it to a minimum of who was carrying bodies. So when you brought them back to the morgue, you can tell them exactly what part that you found them in, and you check your ID, and I guess maybe it just gives them more of an accurate count. So that's what I did for the first, really the day and a half. I was there 2 days, in between doing the search and rescue as well, digging through debris. I met another guy, saved my life. Well, kind of Rick Parker at One Liberty Plaza. About 2 days into it, we moved the morgue because they were afraid the building was going to come down. I was sitting in the first aid center in the morgue there, getting my eyes cleaned out by a nurse, and all of a sudden you hear all this commotion and people running, and I couldn't see because I had my head back and I had saline in my eyes, and heck, the nurse left me, and I could barely, just see out the windows a lot of people running by, and this guy come up to me, and Rick, and he goes, "We got to get out of here." I said, "What do you mean we got to get out of here?" He said, "The building's coming down." I said, "Which building?" He goes, "This building." I said, "Oh, no." So he grabbed me, I can't see, and he grabbed me, and so we ran out the door and up the street, and I remember his mom calling him saying she saw us on Washington News and we needed to get our butts out of there, needless to say. Really, the whole time I was there, I did search and rescue. I pulled quite a bit of bodies. I've carried quite a bit of bodies. I don't really know, how to explain it and what to say, but it's something that I hope we never have to go through again. It was an experience that I wish I never saw, but on the other side, I'm fortunate that I had the opportunity to do something. My mom may feel a little bit different at the time, but now I think she's proud of me. But I think at the time she was fairly nervous about me going over there. But I appreciate letting me tell my story. Thank you.